I wish I could say I was shocked when my brother stood at that podium, diploma in hand, thanking every person who ever existed except me. I wish I could say the air left my lungs when he pointed to where I sat in the audience, wearing the one nice dress I owned, purchased specifically for this day, and joked that even the help showed up to support him. But the truth? It felt like something I'd been waiting for my entire life. Confirmation that no matter how much I sacrificed, I would always be invisible to my own family. The auditorium buzzed with pride and accomplishment. Rows of graduates in identical blue gowns and caps, families clutching flower bouquets and balloon arrangements, the gentle hum of expensive perfume and cologne mingling in the air. I sat alone in row 14, section C, my hands folded over the congratulatory card I'd spent 30 minutes selecting. Inside, a check representing the last payment I would ever make toward my brother's future. My parents were 5 rows ahead, of course, prime seating. Mom in a new designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dad with his just for special occasions watch gleaming under the lights. They hadn't contributed a single penny to Alex's education, but somehow they'd secured the role of proud parents, while I was relegated to whatever I was. When Alex's name was called for his valedictorian speech, they stood and applauded like actors auditioning for the role of world's most supportive parents. I clapped too, my raw hands stinging slightly from the double shift I'd worked yesterday to make sure I could take today off. 6 years of double shifts, actually. Sometimes triples. The kinds of hours that turned my 26-year-old body into something that felt twice that age. Alex approached the podium with that confident smile he'd perfected in childhood. The one that got him out of chores, out of trouble, out of responsibility. He adjusted the microphone, looked out across the sea of faces, and began. I wouldn't be standing here today without the incredible support system that carried me through these challenging years. I felt something twist inside me. A tiny, foolish spark of hope. Maybe, after everything, he would finally acknowledge what I'd done. To my brilliant professors who pushed me to excellence. The spark dimmed. To my amazing friends who kept me sane during exam weeks. It flickered, struggling. To my wonderful parents who have been my rock and foundation since day one. Nearly extinguished. Even to Margie at the campus coffee shop who made sure I never ran out of caffeine. And then he looked directly at me, a half smile playing at the corner of his mouth. And hey, even our household help showed up today. That's dedication. Laughter rippled through the auditorium. Light, polite laughter. The kind people offer when they're not sure if a joke crossed a line but want to be good sports. I didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't allow my face to reveal that I'd just been publicly reduced to the help by the brother whose entire future existed because I had methodically sacrificed my own. The household help. 6 years of my life reduced to a punchline. It started the summer after my first year of nursing school. I was 20, living in a cramped apartment with 3 other nursing students, working night shifts at an elderly care facility between classes and clinicals. Medical school acceptance letters had arrived for Alex, along with the sobering reality of tuition costs. It's just not possible, Mom had said over dinner, her voice cracking with well-rehearsed devastation. We don't have that kind of money, not after the market crash. What she meant was, not after Dad's investment gamble. Not after the vacation home they'd refused to sell. Not after Mom's essential country club membership. Alex had stared at his acceptance letter like it was turning to dust in his hands. I can't get loans without a cosigner. My credit isn't established enough. I should have stayed quiet. Should have nodded sympathetically and gone back to my pasta. Instead, I heard myself say, I could help. Their heads had snapped toward me in perfect synchronization, like predators sensing movement. Just until you guys get back on your feet, I'd added, the words tumbling out before I could examine them. I'm making decent money at the care facility, and they're offering me more hours. Oh, sweetheart, Mom had breathed, relief flooding her face. Not with gratitude, but with the expression of someone who's just been handed an unexpected solution to an inconvenient problem. Would you really? Just for the first semester, of course. Just for the first semester. That was the first lie we all pretended to believe. 6 years later, I had dropped out of nursing school, though I kept taking night classes when I could. Worked 3 jobs simultaneously, moved into an apartment so small and dark it felt more like a storage closet, and transferred approximately 89% of my income directly into Alex's account. My name was on his private loans as cosigner. My credit cards were maxed out from the times when my paychecks weren't enough. The truth crystallized slowly, like ice forming on a window. Help had never meant what I thought it meant. Help wasn't temporary assistance during a family hardship. Help wasn't splitting the burden. Help was me, entirely me, sacrificing everything while everyone else carried on unchanged. Mom and Dad still took their annual trips to Aspen. Alex still posted Instagram photos from spring break in Cancun with his medical school friends. I still ate ramen 4 nights a week and calculated to the penny how much I could spend on groceries. It's an investment in the family, Mom would say on the rare occasions when I hinted at the strain. Once Alex is established, he'll take care of all of us. But the text messages from Alex told a different story. Need another $500 for books this semester. Can you transfer $1,200 for the conference fee? It's really important for residency applications. Had to buy a new laptop? The old one crashed. Sending you the bill. Never, thank you. Never, I appreciate this. Never acknowledgement of what these requests meant for me. Another night shift, another deferred dream. Another year of putting my life on hold. I didn't cry when I left the auditorium. Didn't storm out dramatically. Didn't demand attention. I simply gathered my purse, the congratulatory card still in my hand, and walked out while Alex was describing his challenging journey to becoming a doctor. The early summer air hit my face as I pushed through the heavy doors, warm and sweet, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and distant rain. For the first time in 6 years, I took a deep breath that didn't feel like it was squeezed through a knot in my chest. Something had broken inside me, but not in the way things usually break. This felt more like the breaking of a fever, a long-awaited release. My phone vibrated in my purse. Mom, probably wondering where I'd gone. I silenced it without looking. The drive to my apartment took 12 minutes. I took the stairs instead of waiting for the unreliable elevator, unlocked my door, and surveyed the tiny space I'd called home for 4 years. The fold-out couch that doubled as my bed. The kitchenette with the perpetually dripping faucet. The desk crammed into the corner where I studied for my own classes in the stolen hours between shifts. I moved methodically, without panic or hurry. First, the filing cabinet where I'd kept every record. Bank statements showing monthly transfers to Alex's account, loan documents bearing my signature, credit card statements highlighting medical school expenses, text messages I'd screenshotted and printed, a habit born from some deep, unacknowledged knowledge that this day would come. I laid them out on my small table, arranged by date. 6 years of evidence. 6 years of my life converted to dollars and cents. 6 years of Alex becoming Dr. Alexander Porter while Rachel Porter became invisible. When everything was arranged, I took photos. Clean, clear images of each document. The story they told was unambiguous. I hadn't helped with medical school. I had paid for it. Every tuition installment, every textbook, every white coat, every conference, every application fee. I created a new social media post, something I rarely did these days. No time for social media when you're working 80 hours a week to fund someone else's future. I uploaded all the photos in a single gallery and wrote just 3 words in the caption. Congratulations, Dr. Alex. My finger hovered over the post button for only a moment, not from uncertainty, but from a desire to fully absorb the weight of what I was about to do. Then I pressed it, watching the upload bar fill, feeling a strange lightness spread through my chest. Next came the email. Professor Weber had discovered my role in Alex's education by accident last year, when I'd delivered an emergency payment to the bursar's office during Alex's clinical rotation. He'd been stunned, then disturbed, then quietly supportive in that way of someone who sees an injustice but doesn't feel it's his place to intervene. You're the real hero behind Alex's success, he'd told me, handing me his card. If you ever need anything. I never thought I'd use that card. Until today. The email was brief, professional. I attached copies of all the financial documents, plus screenshots of Alex's social media posts juxtaposed with my bank statements from the same dates. The truth should be known, I wrote simply, especially as the residency committee reviews his application. I knew what this meant. Alex's prestigious residency placement required proof of financial stability and responsibility. Those documents had my name all over them, my guarantee letters, my bank accounts as verification. Documents that Professor Weber, as a member of the ethics committee, could no longer ethically support after learning the full truth. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was accountability. By sunset, I had packed my car with everything I wanted to keep, which wasn't much. Clothes, books, my laptop, a few photos from before I became an ATM with a pulse. I'd already signed a lease on an apartment in a city 2,000 miles away, secured a nursing position that would finally allow me to finish my BSN, and submitted a formal name change application. Not because I was hiding, but because I was becoming someone new, someone visible. I left my keys on the counter along with a check for my last month's rent. The dent in my savings didn't even make me flinch. It was pocket change compared to what I'd poured into Alex's education. Before pulling away, I turned off my phone, not just silent, fully off, and dropped it into the glove compartment. The silence was immediate and complete, wrapping around me like a blanket. 6 years of being constantly available, constantly responsible, constantly needed. And now, nothing. No one knew where I was going. No one could reach me with urgent requests or subtle guilt trips or accusations of betrayal. For the first time in 6 years, I belonged only to myself. 3 days into my cross-country drive, I stopped at a motel with decent Wi-Fi and powered up my phone, bracing for the aftermath. It was worse and better than I'd imagined. 37 missed calls, 62 text messages, 29 voicemails. From Mom. "Where are you?" "We're waiting at the restaurant." Then, "This is very rude, Rachel." Then, "Are you behind that awful post? Take it down immediately." And finally, "Please call us. We need to talk about what you've done." From Dad. "You're being dramatic. This family situation is private. You need to call your mother. She's very upset." And later, "I don't understand why you'd do this to your brother's reputation." From Alex, the progression was more revealing. First confusion. "Where'd you go?" Then anger. "What the hell is that post supposed to mean?" Then dawning horror. "Rachel, something's wrong with my residency application. They're saying there are discrepancies in my financial documentation." And finally, panic. "Please call me back. They're putting my residency on hold pending review. What did you do? What did you do?" I scrolled through the texts with the detached interest of someone reading about strangers. These people felt foreign to me now. Characters in a story I'd been reading for too long. My social media post had exploded beyond anything I'd anticipated. Alex's classmates were sharing it, adding their own observations. Wait, his sister paid for everything? I always wondered how he afforded those ski trips when he claimed to be broke. Remember when he said his parents were funding his education? Was that all a lie? Comments from nursing colleagues I hadn't spoken to in years. Rachel worked herself to exhaustion for this? I always wondered why she dropped out when she was at the top of our class. And then the article. Someone had picked up the story. Not a major outlet, just a medical school blog. But it was enough. Medical school valedictorian's secret financial backer, the sister he called the Help. The headline made me flinch, not from pain, but from the stark reality of seeing it in print. The final voicemail was the one that made me pause. Professor Weber, his voice careful and measured. "Rachel, I wanted you to know that I had dinner with your parents after the ceremony. I may have mentioned, innocently of course, what a remarkable thing you'd done, financing your brother's entire education on a nursing assistant's salary." The look on their faces. Well, I suspect they were not fully aware of the arrangement. Your brother's residency situation is complicated now. The committee has concerns about discrepancies in his application, ethical concerns. These things happen when the truth comes to light. Take care of yourself. You deserve that much. I deleted all the messages without responding, turned my phone off again, and continued driving. The highway stretched before me, empty and full of possibility. Above me, stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, each one distinct, visible, impossible to ignore. It's been 3 years since I walked out of that auditorium. 3 years since I became Rachel Winters instead of Rachel Porter. 3 years of building a life that belongs entirely to me. I finished my BSN through an accelerated program, working day shifts at a hospital that values my contributions and recognizes my potential. Last month, I accepted a nurse practitioner position that finally, allows me to care for patients the way I always wanted to. My tiny starter apartment has been replaced by a small but sunlit condo that I'm in the process of buying. Mine, all mine, with no one else's name on the mortgage. Alex never got his dream residency. The ethics committee found too many inconsistencies in his application, too many questions about his financial responsibility and personal integrity. He ended up in a general position at a community clinic 3 states over from our hometown. I hear he doesn't mention his valedictorian status much anymore, doesn't brag about his prestigious medical school, keeps his head down and does his job. My parents still text occasionally. Weekly messages became monthly, then quarterly. The tone evolved from outrage to beseeching to carefully neutral. "Hope you're well. Thinking of you at Thanksgiving. Your father had a minor procedure, everything is fine." I respond when I feel like it, which isn't often. Mom still asks when I'm coming home for a visit, as if home is a place I left behind rather than something I'm building here, day by day. As if home were ever those people and not this life I've created. Friends who celebrate my achievements, a partner who proudly tells everyone about my recent publication in a nursing journal, colleagues who value my expertise without questioning my worth. Last month, a letter arrived from Alex, an actual paper letter handwritten on expensive stationery. His first attempt at anything resembling an apology. I read it once, noting the careful way he constructed his sentences. I realize now how much you sacrificed. Not, I'm sorry for taking advantage of you. I wish things had gone differently at graduation. Not, I apologize for humiliating you publicly. The closest he came to genuine remorse was near the end. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I understand now what it means to build something on your own, without anyone's help. It's harder than I ever imagined. I placed the letter in a drawer without responding and went to dinner with my colleagues who were celebrating my promotion. The restaurant was elegant but comfortable, the kind of place I would have walked past 3 years ago, mentally calculating how many hours I'd need to work to afford a meal there. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if posting those documents publicly was more about revenge than justice. But when I come home to a space that's mine, when I look in the mirror and recognize the woman looking back at me, when I feel the weight of my hospital ID badge with Rachel Winters, BSN, NP printed across it, I can't find it in me to regret setting myself free. The truth is, I didn't destroy Alex's future. I simply stopped sacrificing mine to build it. The difference matters. Some people say family is forever, that blood means always forgiving, always supporting, always returning. But I've learned that the most important person to support is yourself. That forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who see you as a resource rather than a person. So, would you have stayed silent to keep the peace? Or would you have shown the world exactly who had been making the sacrifices all along?